And here's the thing. I think people get it more than they ever have. They understand. You look at some of these elite bureaucrats like Fauci. You look at the corporate media, big tech. The emperor has no clothes. These are discredited elites in our country, and they don't have your best interests at heart. They don't have this state's best interests at heart. Sometimes, though, it doesn't feel like, your voice can be heard because so much of it is dominated by this one viewpoint. But when you stand up and you stand in that fire and you fight back for people, man, they will have your back.
So I know we could do politics all day long, and I do politics for a living, and these guys, they're into politics, but there's something else going on here, I think, that you exemplify, which is just one man against the system, that you just said no. And I want to know, just on a personal level, not at a political level, where do you think that came from within you? Was that something that you always had? I mean, when the COVID stuff was happening and everybody else locked down, everybody else followed Fauci, you said no. I mean, that's all you just said no. And I want to know, where did that really come from within you?
Well, look, I think that there are people that get involved in elected office who are there to be able to enjoy the accoutrements of office, to be able to have a title. And then there are people that get in because they actually want to do something, and they also want to make a difference. So I'm the latter. And when I became governor, I remember going into the office for the first time, sitting in the chair, and I said, you know what? I don't know what SOB is going to end up succeeding me in 8 years, but I can tell you this. There ain't going to be any meat left on the bone for them because I'm going to take on issues. I'm going to be on offense. I'm not just going to sit back. I'm going to make sure that we're really making a difference. But I would do it based on what I thought was right. And I have not taken a poll since I've been governor. I'm not trying to react to whatever some random burst of opinion. My view is when you lead, if you set out the vision and you execute the vision and you do well, people will follow that, and that's what they want to see. And so that was just my philosophy. And so when it came for COVID, I remember just getting hammered by corporate press, and they politicized it. They wanted to use it to take out Trump. They wanted to use it to take out people like me, and that's just what they do. But my view was, okay, if by me protecting the jobs of all the people I represent ends up putting my own job in jeopardy, then so be it. Let the chips fall where they may. I wasn't worried about politics. And I would totally be willing to, because there's a lot of opportunities in life. It isn't like I have to do this. And so if it didn't work out for me, I would have been totally great being able to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I did what I thought was right to benefit the people I represent. I think when you get in situations where some of these politicians, they get paralyzed by polls and consultants and everything, and then they don't do what they think in their guts right because they're worried about blowback, they're worried about the media, they're worried about political consequences, well then guess what happens? You end up not succeeding most of the time anyways, and then you end up looking in the mirror like, man, I just wish I would have followed what I believed in. And so, no regrets. You got to do what you think is right. And in this case with Florida, with COVID, I actually consumed the data myself. I wasn't just, saying if Fauci says something, then you got to genuflect. What are they getting at the data? And the fact is, Fauci was wrong about a lot of this stuff, okay? We were the first big state to guarantee every parent the ability to send their kid to school in person, way back in 2020, right? Fauci opposed us having kids in school. He opposed what we were doing. When we had businesses open and protecting people's jobs and we're having these events, he opposed us every step of the way. And so that wasn't based on data because the schooling was obvious that you needed to have the kids in school. It was based more on ideology, and it was more based on all these other things. So we were right to stand up to Fauci.
We'll respect your free speech if you respect ours, but you got to do it outside. You got to do it outside.
So at the end of the day, that's just my philosophy, and I think that you got to do what you think is right. I tend to, if there's a choice between going against the machine and siding with the folks, I'm going to side with the folks. And here's the thing. I think people get it more than they ever have. They understand. You look at some of these elite bureaucrats like Fauci. You look at the corporate media, big tech. The emperor has no clothes. These are discredited elites in our country, and they don't have your best interests at heart. They don't have this state's best interests at heart. Sometimes, though, it doesn't feel like, your voice can be heard because so much of it is dominated by this one viewpoint. But when you stand up and you stand in that fire and you fight back for people, man, they will have your back. They will support you. And that's what we've shown in the state of Florida. See?
He doesn't like polls, but standing ovations ain't bad, Those are pretty good. I got an idea. So, if you weren't a politician, well, how about this maybe, and you guys could chime in on this. We don't have to put the governor on the spot, but maybe you crush it in this next election here in Florida. Let's do maybe 8 years in the White House, and then you become CEO of Disney. How does that sound?
Who knows what happens? You never know in life, so.
All right, so let's talk about some of the other stuff that you're doing, because you really are doing stuff here that is not happening in the rest of the country. You just signed this fatherhood bill last month here. This is just another issue that you took on that seemingly we need to talk about, we don't talk about honestly, and you chose to fight it. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that if you look at what's going on in our society, did they have to at least pay to get in here?
They had to pay.
Good. Look, I get people have their shtick. I get people, do things a little bit different on that side than we would. But honestly, it's so ineffective. All you do is tick people off when you try to interrupt these events. So keep doing it. You're just going to help us in the long run.
And you live in Florida, people.
But the fatherhood is interesting because if you look at all the different problems society could deal with, a huge number of them are rooted in kids growing up without having a father in the home. And so I started getting involved in this when I was my first year as governor. We're doing the budget. There was some money for a group called All Pro Dads, and it was founded by former Bucks and Colts head coach Tony Dungy, who's a great guy. And Tony, look, I just signed next year's budget. I vetoed a Florida record $3.1 billion. Before I became governor, the record was like $800 million. And so we're very tough, and we will veto. And so you can veto individual items. And so he called me just to kind of make the pitch. And I'm like, honestly, I trust you. I know your heart's in the right place, and I know this is important. So we started getting involved. We'd work with private groups. We'd work with our state agencies. And then this year, kind of a more comprehensive thing. But if you talk to Coach Dungy, and he was at the bill signing, when he said when he became Tampa Bay head coach, he went to minister at some of the prisons. And he looked and he said, I noticed that it wasn't because of poverty, race, all these other things. The reason these people were in prison was because they did not have a father figure in the home. And if you could address that, you would have so much better luck in society overall. And so that's what we're trying to do. And part of it is resources, education. Part of it, though, is sending a message to men. Meet your responsibilities. You have a responsibility.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.